The vision truly is cursed. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome back to Post-Match Panic. We are talking Monday Night Raw for February 23rd, 2026. Man, we are on that road to Elimination Chamber. We are less than a week away. This Saturday is the Elimination Chamber going in to this match, or this card tonight in Atlanta, Georgia. We currently have on the men's side Randy Orton, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, Javon Evans, and Trick Williams. On the women's side, Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, and Kiana James. Now, we are going to find out the other two members of the Elimination Chamber tonight on the men's and the women's side, so we will have that full card. But before we get into that, we have the opening of the show. Michael Cole and Corey Graves in the ring, seeming like they are going to go right into this celebration of AJ Styles, which that is kind of what this whole night is centered around, which is, AJ is officially retiring. It's good for him to have that one last ride, that one last night. We'll talk about a little bit more about that later on in the show. But Michael Cole, Corey Graves in the ring. They start talking about that, and then Gunther interrupts. He grabs the mic, and he just walks out there, and he tells the announcers to get out of the ring, get behind the desk, and start telling everybody how great he is. And, Gunther is just pouring into this mega heel role. They've got him in, which is really good, I think, for this. He starts going through his list of losers that he put away: Bill Goldberg, John Cena, and, of course, the man of the night, AJ Styles. He thinks that tonight's a disgrace, that it's disgraceful that there's a celebration of this loser, AJ Styles. Why aren't they celebrating him? He's the one who retired these guys. Why aren't they celebrating Gunther? Why isn't he being the one put on top of everybody? So, he's the only thing that all three of these losers have in common is that Gunther killed their career. Tonight should be a celebration of a truly great wrestler, Gunther. Now, as he's going off, Adam Pearce does come out and tells him to stop. Now, it seemed like there were some microphone issues. I don't know if it was just Gunther ignoring him or if they didn't have the mic high enough in the house and Gunther couldn't hear him. We could hear him, but I don't know what was going on there. But he comes out and tells Gunther that he needs to leave. And Gunther decides to oblige by that. He does leave, but not because Pierce told him to, but because he's disgraced about what is happening here tonight. And as Gunther is leaving and heading backstage, he gets attacked by none other than Dragon Lee, AJ Styles' tag team partner. Dragon Lee comes out and just starts wailing on Gunther. Security and Pierce are quick to get him off of Gunther, but as Gunther's stumbling backstage, Dragon comes back there and they just start brawling again. So after they were able to separate him once again, clearly setting up a match, we find out later that it is official for next week between Dragon Lee and Gunther. Cody Rhodes, the hometown boy from Atlanta, shows up. Usually he's the Friday night guy, but you can't have a show in Atlanta without Cody Rhodes. And of course, he's going to be there for AJ's big night. That seems to be the theme of the night. We're going to see a lot of video packages throughout the night of people saying how much AJ meant to the industry, how much they meant to them, and thanking him, which was really cool to see. It made me want to go back and learn more about AJ's career and just watch some of his matches and his story, because we just don't know. Like, we're newer to the industry, we're newer to the WWE as a whole. Getting in the weeds of everything. We know The Rock, the Attitude Era, like a lot of the big names that happened back then, but like the people like AJ, like I don't know too much about. So these video packages really made me want to go back and learn more about that. But Cody Rhodes is in the ring. He says that he's here for AJ's, and as he's getting started, none other than the Vision coming out. Paul Heyman tries to get the crowd hyped up. It seemed like he was struggling a little bit there at the beginning, but Austin Theory takes the mic again. he is the Atlanta boy, says he's ashamed from being there. And then, of course, Logan has to say what he is programmed to say in every single city, that just because you're from this city, you're stupid, that you mean nothing. He says the same thing every city he goes into. Get some new material or get off the mic. Come on, just figure it out. But they're hyping up Bronson that he will win his qualifier, and the Vision will, now that they've taken over Raw, they will go over and just take over SmackDown after Bronson wins the Elimination Chamber and will take on Drew McIntyre. So Cody gets on the mic and says that he knows someone who disagrees, and then looks up into the stands and cues the Yeet Fest. So we are going right into the men's Elimination Chamber qualifier between Bronson Reed, Jey Uso, and the original El Grande Americano. Now, going into this, my prediction was that Bronson Reed was going to win due to an interference by Los Americanos. Now, this match started off, again, it just seemed like everyone was going up against Bronson, El Grande, and Jey were really just trying to make this a one-on-one match, which inadvertently is kind of what happened. So, Bronson Reed busted up. We found out later that he tore his bicep trying to break up the pin on one of those on one of those moves. So, man, it just seems like the Vision is just getting crumbled by injury after injury after injury. Now, I had a thought, and I don't know. I mean, they've pulled this once before, and I don't know if they would do it again and to this scale. Could all of these injuries be a work? Seth Rollins' injury, Braun Breaker's injury, and now Bronson Reed's injury. It just seems a little too coincidental that the Vision is just getting picked off one by one by injuries. I don't know. Again, it could be a work. It could be legitimate. It was just a thought that I had. Could be fun. But if it is a legit injury, I like Bronson Reed, get better, come back. I know this had to derail a lot of things. I read something this morning saying that Bronson was supposed to win, but it speaks to the level of improvisation and professionalism of these guys in the ring, that they have to pivot that quickly. In a regular match, the match would just get called, and the winner is the guy who didn't get injured. But this is a triple threat. The match has to go on. This is a qualifying match. This has to go on. So El Grande and Jey had to pivot, and these are the kind of conversations that I would love to be a fly on the wall back in Guerrilla and in Creative, trying to figure out, like, okay, what the hell do we do? Like, we got, like, they're scrambling in the back. They are. They're trying to talk to the ref, who is then trying to communicate to the last two remaining superstars to try to figure out what they need to do. So those kind of things are very intriguing and very interesting, and those are the kind of things that I want to see in like an Unreal episode or something like that. So, very interesting to see how they pivoted, but we did end up seeing Jey Uso get the spear and the splash for the win. Whether, we've got Jey Uso in an Elimination Chamber match again, I don't know if that's going to mess with anything in the long run. I know Jey now has a week of work to do that he probably didn't expect to have. So good luck, buddy. And we'll see you at the Chamber. So we have Jey Uso rounding out the men's card for the Elimination Chamber. We'll have to see, what happens with the Vision now, because now they're down to two people. We're coming up to the Chamber, so who knows? We could see the return of Seth. I don't know. But again, the Vision isn't the Vision anymore. They are now a duo, and Paul Heyman. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, sure, if the rest of the guys get injured, okay. So, like, they have to be sidelined at this point. They don't have any stories. They don't have anybody to take that reins. Logan's not going to take it. Austin Theory's not going to take it. You're just going to get Paul Heyman on the mic every week. Fine, but they are so much less threatening now that they've lost all of their bulldogs. They've lost all of their bite. That it's just laughable at this point. So, the most likely being sidelined. We'll see how it goes after the Elimination Chamber, and we'll see what happens next week. Moving on, we get we get Liv Morgan, who we knew that was coming in to make her decision, and Liv is looking very distraught. And this, I think, this speaks to her skills. And like, this is the first time we're seeing her after the telenovela last week. We did get a review of that segment, and I'll give it to production, and I'll give it to the people who put that together and the editors. It looked like a telenovela. The camera angles and the camera qualities and all that stuff. It looked like it was straight off the Spanish soap opera channel. So well done by them. Dom gets on the mic, says that Liv is here to make her decision on who she will pick for her match at WrestleMania, and calls both of the champions out. Stephanie and Jey do come out. Now, I was listening to the wording on what he was saying, and I was curious if they were going to call a different champion out, like from NXT or TNA or something, because it doesn't have to be, from my understanding, it doesn't have to be the SmackDown or Raw champion. It could just be any champion. And they weren't specific in the wording. Dom wasn't on that. So I was waiting to see after Jade and Stephanie came out if like JC Jane was going to come out or something like that. But we do get Stephanie and Jade out in the ring with them. Liv does take the mic from Dom and addresses both women, and says that she wants to get something off of her chest first, and that she turns to Stephanie and says that her words last week really caught her by surprise, and that she's not used to being vulnerable, and that she was right. Liv was being selfish. She didn't know what Stephanie's story was. She didn't know Stephanie's struggles and what she had to do to get to where she was, and apologizes to her. But now that she needs to focus on her story now and what she needs to do. So we got to see this really vulnerable side of Liv for a minute. You know, she turns towards Jade, acting like that she's gonna talk to Jade and address her now, and then immediately just turns around and smacks Stephanie in the face with the microphone hard, and then just starts wailing on her, and then ends up hitting her with an Oblivion. It's not explicitly said at that moment, but it is heavily implied, and we found out later it was confirmed that Liv has chosen Stephanie Becerra for her match at WrestleMania. So we will see now who is going to win the Elimination Chamber to face Jade Cargill. But our main event, I would say this is night 2 of WrestleMania, Liv versus Stephanie. This is going to be way more of a entertaining match than I think whoever goes up against Jade Cargill, because it's Jade Cargill, let's be real. Moving on from that, we have Javon backstage with an interview with Byron. And as Javon's about to answer a question that Byron has, we get a musician, a rapper, somebody who I've never heard of before. But again, I don't listen to this kind of music, so he could be popular. I don't know. Offset, sure, great. We have New Day shows up with Xavier in an arm sling, which is clearly why we haven't seen them in a while, which is very unfortunate. Javon wants to throw hands. Kofi steps up for a match later tonight, so we get to see them in a little bit. But yeah, of course, I mean, we're in Atlanta. It's a huge hip hop scene, huge rap scene. So of course we're going to see, and we do see it in the crowd too. They pan to a lot of different musicians, musical artists, different things like that. But I guess they are having this Offset guy who I guess is doing the music for Elimination Chamber show up tonight. More on that later. In our next match, we have Maxine Dupree versus Natty. Now, I noticed Maxine had different music, new music. It wasn't the clear Alpha Academy music. So is she no longer associated with Alpha Academy? Her title card said she was, but you know, they've been kind of separating them out for a while. They're still very friendly, but they're not a cohesive unit like they once were. So not sure what's going to happen there, but we'll see. It clearly Maxine's trying to break out and trying to be more tough, and you know, with her training with Natalia, who is now Natty, we'll see how it goes. It seemed like we were going to get the same old frou-frou Maxine happy-go-lucky type thing instead of this hardcore version we've seen lately. But we get this mentor-mentee rivalry now with Natty just being unhinged. And it started off, Maxine was holding her own in this match. You know, getting thrown into the post hard by a push-off kick from Natty, which seemed to not, like, I don't know, it didn't seem like it hit as hard as they made it out to be, because Maxine was now just out cold. She just wasn't moving. We at first I was like, okay, is this another injury? But of course, it is what it is. There was no sign from the ref, and Natty just started wailing on the back of Maxine's head, and the ref ended up calling the match for a knockout. Now, I don't know what to think about this because Natty is supposed to be this hardcore badass character that is just knocking the crap out of everybody. You're knocking the crap out of Maxine, who, is still working her way up to being someone of a higher caliber. I don't think this, it would be different if Natty was like knocking out Rhea Ripley or someone of that caliber or Jordan Grace, right? But, knocking out Maxine, okay, cool. I guess Natty hits hard. We'll have to see where that goes. But yep, that's how that match ended. That's what I think about that. After that match, we have the Judgment Day backstage getting ready for Raquel's qualifier. JD tries to clear the air with Finn about the anger that he had towards Punk last week, and that he just wants what's best for him. They came up together. They're both Irish brothers. Finn's the reason JD's in the Judgment Day to begin with, and the reason why JD's here. So he was just trying to do what's best for him. And Finn says, you know what? Brothers fight, but they always make up. He still wants to do the match at the Chamber alone, though. And Dom comes in after that saying that the guys left him out there alone last week because they weren't out there for his qualifying match. And Finn apologizes kind of sarcastically, saying that he's been focusing on the biggest match of his career. And, JD and Dom have been injured for a long time. So Finn's had to go it alone. And he says that, he doesn't blame you guys he doesn't blame the guys for not being there while he was injured. And says, you know what, Dom, it may be time for you to take some responsibility and grow up. So teasing that breakup, teasing a possible match between there. I think, it's time for Finn to break out. It's time for Finn to go on his own. He can still be brothers with JD and still be good with these guys. But, this is the same kind of thing that happened once Damian left. I think it's time for Finn to break off and become the demon again. Let's go. After that, we get a quick little promo about Obafemi, who is still technically a free agent. And after that short little video package, we go to Adam Pearce backstage. He's got the crate back. It's back here. And he goes over the shipping manifest, and he's like, oh, great, my name's misspelled, which was just a funny little thing. I love the storyline with the crate. It's just a fun little way to tease whatever's inside of it. I just hope they don't build it up and it's just a nothing burger. Let the crate mean something. Let the crate be something fun. He says that Nick Aldis just can't handle anything, and Nick told his staff to bring it to back to Pierce. Pierce tells his staff to get it to Chicago, and then Nick and Adam will open it together at Elimination Chamber on Saturday. After that, Rusev and Oba both show up, and Rusev says to Oba that he talks too much for being a rookie. Oba tells him to shut him up, and Pierce gets in the middle of it, saying that, hey, tonight's for AJ. Let's hold off on this. Let's set it up next week, but tonight's all about AJ, and they both agree that for AJ that they will table it for next week. After that, we have Brock Lesnar, the Beast Incarnate, in the ring. Now, Paul Heyman's walking out with him. I don't know if there's anything to look at here, or if just because Paul Heyman was his advocate back in the day. I don't know. I mean, it could be a way to go, since the vision is clearly crumbling, that Paul Heyman has to attach himself to somebody else, whether that's Brock or whether he stays with the vision or just does both is yet to be seen. Now, I don't know if there's something more nefarious. The thought crossed my mind. What if Brock is behind the masked men? What if Brock and Paul Heyman are the ones conniving behind the backs again? Shades of last year at WrestleMania, where Seth and Paul were pulling the strings behind the curtain, but could happen again. I don't know. Could just be that because Paul was his advocate before, that's what it was. Heyman gets on the mic and gives a little bit of a history lesson about WrestleMania's main events, that it was always the championship and then Undertaker's undefeated streak. And it wasn't until Brock ended Undertaker's streak that the other championship was the other main event at WrestleMania. Paul Heyman says the only dead man walking now is the guy who walks down to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and says that nobody in the locker room will take the ass kicking of biblical proportions that is coming their way. And they say, hey, this is where Brock's going to be. They put up his appearance schedule on the Jumbotron for the rest of the road to WrestleMania. So that's where Brock's going to be. So if anyone wants to step up for a match, all they have to do is walk down and meet him in the ring face to face, and that'll be their match at WrestleMania. That'll be their moment. So Brock Lesnar has an open challenge for WrestleMania, which is good. We haven't seen much from Brock. We saw him in the Rumble. We saw maybe 1 or 2 appearances here and there, but no actual real match. So if he's going to come back and if he's going to be doing stuff, I think this will be a good way to introduce that. So they were really pushing a potential really big return. I have no idea who that could be. Anyone who is currently on the roster, I would love to see Oba get his Royal Rumble revenge against Brock, since Brock was the one who eliminated Oba, and they did have that kind of little butting heads moment in the middle of the ring. Again, you're going to have 2 huge dudes, 2 huge beasts go at it. I think that would be a lot of fun to watch, but it seemed like they were teasing a big return from Brock's past, so I don't know what that would look like. Maybe we get the final boss coming in for another match. It could be another Rock versus Brock. Could be fun. I don't know. We'll have to see. But we'll find out more. I'm assuming he'll. I didn't get a good look at the dates, but next time he shows up, we'll see it again. So we don't have that many more shows until WrestleMania, so it's only a couple months away. After that, we get a Becky Lynch video promo. Says, really AJ Lee is living in her head, man. Says that AJ has only held 1 butterfly belt, but Becky has changed the entire game. Becky wants to retire AJ Lee in front of all of her family and friends in her hometown, and she'll still be the second best AJ to retire this year. Another nod and another ode to AJ Styles, who is being celebrated tonight. So, good little promo, and it's not just me saying it. Everyone's saying it. Sports Illustrated says it. Bleacher Report says it. Becky Lynch is there. So going into our next match, we have Javon Evans versus Kofi Kingston. Now, Javon is walking out with this Offset guy. I would have thought WWE and Creative would have learned their lesson last time they had somebody who was giving a song to one of their events coming out and being involved in matches. We had whoever the Fiend guy, Travis Scott, I guess, whoever, come in, and that just completely screwed up an entire great moment last time between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. Why are we having these musicians come out? Why are we having celebrities get involved? It has done nothing but screwed up a lot of different storylines and just hasn't been fun, hasn't been great. In my opinion, they are not needed. Just stop. Just stop. We don't need these musicians coming out. We don't need celebrities coming out. I get that it's part of the history. I understand it. But someone who's watching brand new, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. It takes away from a lot. We see this guy try to get involved in the match later, and just, it just looked like you could just flick the guy and he'd fall over. But yet he's throwing people on the announce table, and he's potentially spearing people or just hitting people. I don't know. It's not needed. I don't think it's needed. Stop bringing celebrities into these matches. So starting off this match, Kofi slapping Javon around. Now, people have alluded to the fact that Javon is kind of like a mini Kofi Kingston and the new Kofi. Again, I'm not too familiar with Kofi's past, aside from some of the tag matches that has happened. The big was at Hell in a Cell with the Usos. That was a big match that I've seen, but I don't know as much about Kofi as I probably should. So saying that Javon is a mini Kofi doesn't hit as hard for me. Javon's just fun to watch. He's just a bouncy boy. After a few slaps, Javon just kind of got woken up and ends up kicking Kofi really hard, enough to the point where the ref has to go check on him, and Waller ends up getting a big distraction and getting a couple cheap shots off on Javon's. Javon does try to hit the Evans from the heavens, but Kofi just decides to run up the ramp, trying to run away, says no, no, no. Apparently, Kofi is really good at suckering people in and, trying to uh, get those cheap shots, which he does end up hitting Javon with. And like he keeps trying to call timeouts and just sucker Javon in and ends up hitting him with a couple cheap shots. Now, Javon hit a move. I don't know. I've never seen it. They called it a tornado splash kick. I thought that was really cool. I thought that just helped Javon just expand his repertoire a little bit, keep it going. I love his big, flashy moves. I mean, you're a young kid. Keep going. Keep doing it. That backflip off the top rope by Javon, again, another big, huge move. Whether his knee did get hurt or whether it was a work, throughout the whole thing or whether it's just sore, it is what it is. But that height on that was just incredible. He just jumped and just stopped in midair as he was flipping. So, Javon, man, the bounciest of bouncy boys. Grayson did get involved at one point with a huge punch to throw Javon back into the ring and set up for the pin. Javon barely kicked out of that. Very close kick out. And that's when, the boy Offset started getting involved for some reason. And, it just looked like, again, not worth it, not needed. I get that you're in Atlanta. I get you're in a big community there, but, our big hip hop community, but, it doesn't work. It takes away from, what's the real big storytelling and, the OG cutter for the win. Now, whether this was overextended or it was just you could see it one of both ways. Whether Kofi was in the wrong position or whether Javon jumped too far, it didn't matter because they both sold it really well. I think Kofi being able to pivot on that cutter and turn around really well or really quickly really worked. And it was no Bravo Americano cutter, but it was still a great cutter. And I got hyped at one point after that match because they started talking about, or Michael Cole said what I had predicted last week about OG Cutter off of the pod at Elimination Chamber. So I got a little hyped on that as I was watching it. It was fun. I'm really hoping to still see it. I think it would be really cool to see that OG Cutter into an RKO or countering an RKO or a Cody Cutter or something. Or we have a Cody Cutter on one and OG Cutter on the other and the RKO off the other, and all three of them try to hit it on one person or on each other. I just make it a spectacle. I think it would be great. So, just another momentum building for the chamber match for Javon. I think it'll be good. It's always good to see the New Day back. Hopefully Xavier's arm, gets better so they can come back because I know they were a big push for the tag division between them and the Usos for a while. So, we want to see them back. And ignite that rivalry again. Next, we're moving on to the World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk in the ring. But before Punk gets on the mic, we get a video promo by Finn. It says that Punk isn't the only one with people mad at him. Finn has people mad at him too, but needs to prove to everyone, including the Judgment Day, that he can be champion. That he learned to stop asking himself what if and started telling himself when he beats Punk, when he becomes champion, and when he main events WrestleMania, because then everyone will know who really is the best in the world. Now, what I really like about this back and forth between Punk and Finn, they're using these buzzwords. We talked a couple weeks ago about CM Punk using the words deserved and earned. People deserve a fighting champion. Finn has earned the ass kicking that's coming his way. And this week it seems to be they're using those same things like what if and when. So Punk gets on the mic and he starts talking about first, he has to acknowledge that tonight is not about him, that it's about the phenomenal AJ Styles and that he's not going to be here long so AJ can have the most time possible at the end of the show. Now, this is where the what if and when comes in. He says, what if Finn didn't do everything he's done lately to Punk? What if he had won in Belfast? What if all of this, he didn't attack his match with AJ earlier on a couple weeks ago? Then Finn wouldn't have the match at the Chamber. Punk is giving people what they deserve, going back to those words, a fighting champion. He doesn't like dealing in what ifs, says they aren't rooted in reality. He says, what if Roman was here tonight? And he gives the crowd some time to react. He says he's not, even Punk can't find Roman Reigns. He's just not around, show up and we'll acknowledge you, sir. But what if Roman Reigns was here tonight? Then he could punch him in his stupid face. Those were his words. Punk is always here, and we've said it. Punk's the real QB1. He's there week after week. He's a fighting champion. He's doing all this stuff. He's carrying the company right now. Punk is the man. Now, he says, what if he didn't wait until Mania to punch Roman? He'll just do it when he shows up next week in Indianapolis. And, of course, the people in Atlanta aren't too stoked about that. They want to see him here. They don't care what's happening in Indianapolis. They want to see Roman Reigns here. But we'll get that matchup, or we'll get that face-to-face in Indianapolis on Monday if Punk makes it out of Chamber as champion. Now, Punk isn't going to let Finn ask what if. He'll let Roman ask what if, or Punk will let both these guys ask what if. He doesn't have to ask himself what if. He doesn't have to say, what if he's the main event at WrestleMania? He is the main event at WrestleMania. He is the champion. He is the best in the world, and he is CM Punk. Again, Punk is just great in the mic. He's great. He's just good. He's just good. I mean, that's just what it is. He's one of the best on the mic. I think his match with Finn is going to be another banger. The one in Belfast was good. I think this one's going to be a really fun one to watch. And who knows? We could go into Mania with Punk not being champion. We got to see what Finn can do. Or if Finn gets sabotaged, we'll see how it goes. We go into our last match of the night before the celebration of AJ Styles. We go into the women's triple threat qualifier between Io Sky, Kairi Sane, and Raquel Rodriguez. Now, I was really hoping, I had some thoughts on the women's triple threat qualifiers this last week, and I was really praying, just hoping that this would be a good match to watch. And it was. It was good. It was clean. It was fun. I want to see more Kairi solo. I keep forgetting that her persona is like a pirate princess. And every time her solo music hits, I get reminded of that. I've never seen Kairi as a solo superstar, and I would love to see more of it. So whether this fallout with Asuka is happening or not, I don't know. But more Kairi solo, I'd love to see it. Now, Io and Kairi do have history together. They have been close. They were part of Damage Control back in the day with Bayley as well as Asuka. And so I think... And lately, Io seems to be trying to save Kairi from Asuka. Asuka clearly is berating Kairi at any chance she gets, blaming her for everything. And Io and even Rhea are both trying to say, hey, you don't have to suffer this. Are you okay? Like type of thing, checking in on her. At the beginning of the match, Raquel is just a physical force to both of these women. She's twice their size and is just throwing both these women around the ring. And at one point, Io and Kairi seem to be working together. It's like some old times. And it got to one point where, Io was pointing that out, and Kairi just kind of like snapped to and realized that, oh, wait, hey, you're the enemy, and just starts wailing on Io. Raquel shows off her strength multiple times, with a double fall away slam, which was great. She caught the women in the air multiple times. It was just good. And then I think the biggest show of strength, Io is trying to hit Kairi with a bullet train attack, and in the middle of that, Raquel intercepts it and just picks her up and just yeets Io across the ring, which was very impressive to watch. Very cool to see. Kairi's no slouch either. She hits that huge cutlass back fist to Io, knocking her down and rocking her pretty good. And Io did hit a few different over the moonsaults to go for the pin. Of course, that's her finishing move. There were a couple counters, a couple saves. And it ends up, Io hits Raquel with a DDT to set up the over the moonsault again. And as she is going up to the top turnbuckle, to the top rope, Kairi pulls Io off and went for the insane elbow. Raquel got the knees up and hits Kairi with the Tejana Bomb for the pin. Now, Raquel has filled out that last slot for the Chamber. If she wins, Judgment Day has both main events with her and Liv being there. It's going to be interesting to see on the Chamber. Of course, my prediction didn't come true. I would have loved to see Raquel and Liv fight for first choice on champion, but with Liv officially going for Stephanie, we will see who wins the chamber and who will face Jade Cargill. So that is going to be it for the matches for tonight. We go from that into the AJ Styles tribute. Now, again, I said earlier that I don't know much about AJ's history, but every one of these video packages made me want to go back through his matches and go back through his history and watch it. So they did a really good job with that. Good job, production. He is another hometown boy. He grew up not far from Atlanta, over in Gainesville, and he's thankful for tonight and knows that this doesn't happen very often. A celebration like this doesn't happen for everybody who retires, and he's very grateful for the opportunity. He starts to go through his career in TNA in Japan and says that he's literally done almost everything except being a full-time father. So he is really looking forward to being that full-time dad. Good on him. I love it. His family is in the crowd and is in the front row on the hard camera side, but I think he said one of his kids was sick. That was the only one that's not there. But he says the biggest flex is having the best wife. He said he's missed everything that there is to miss: birthdays, anniversaries, games, all this. But she never told him to stop. She kept pushing him forward. So they have a little sweet moment there. And then he says the way that he went out to Gunther was poetic. His debut was at the Royal Rumble, and his last match was at the Royal Rumble. So, he said it wasn't the way that he thought it was going to go down, but, it was a poetic way to go down. And at the end, he says he didn't leave his gloves in the ring at Rumble. People kept asking him why, and that he said that he was a man of his word about retiring, because that was a big thing. Is he really retiring? He didn't lay his gloves down, whatever. But he said that he's a man of his word, and he laid his jacket down in the ring. He said he didn't take his gloves off because he wanted to take them home and lay his gloves at home in Atlanta. And that was, we see his jacket and his gloves hit in this big emotional moment. We get the staff and the other superstars coming out to show their respect. Everyone coming out of Gorilla, out of backstage and standing at the entrance, showing their respect, giving him the ovation he deserves. And then the lights cut out, and we hear Undertaker's bell rings. Now, I know they have a bit of a history in their story. That's about all I know about that. I need to go back and watch it, but I know that was a big moment. And he comes out on his motorcycle and grabs a mic in the ring, and Undertaker says that they have unfinished business. And at that moment, you could see the look on AJ. He's like, oh, what is happening right now? Like, what's going on? Like, he had no idea what was going on, which was really cool to see. And Taker said his line, he's like, if you see me coming, you're already gone. And he changed it a little bit. He says, if you see me coming, that means you're going. And, you could see AJ trying to like figure out, the wheels were turning, trying to figure out what it was that Taker was really trying to say. And he looks at him and he says, you're the newest inductee to the Hall of Fame. And they got AJ good. Like, you could just tell that he had no idea that was coming. Those were genuine emotions. It was really cool to see that. So we get our newest inductee to the Hall of Fame. Now, as the cameras were cutting and as all of this was kind of wrapping up, because AJ's family came in the ring, they had a sweet moment. His wife raised his hand, and they did all that. A part of me was like, what if Gunther came out and just ruined this entire thing? Like, if they really wanted to push that, I mean, I get you're taking away from a huge thing about AJ, and like I get that part of it, but a part of me was like, what if Gunther came out? I think that would have been fun. But that's the end of our show. Very touching tribute to him at the end. I think it was great. It was fun to see. And good luck, AJ, in your future endeavors, sir. All right, we have our Elimination Chamber field is set. Randy Orton, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and now Jey Uso. Whether that was intended or not, that is now the men's chamber. The women's chamber, Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Kiana James, and Raquel Rodriguez. Gonna be a fun time. That is what we are most excited for this week. Again, we're coming up on Chamber in just a few days. My prediction, I haven't heard from Jesse yet, but my prediction for this is, so Drew's been trying to stack the deck for the Elimination Chamber to see who fights him. Now, if you look at the card there, who is the person on the card in Chamber who is not given opportunities, who's not being pushed, who is probably the least in the eyes of not the fans, not me for sure, but in the eyes of creative and fans and things like that, who is probably the least threatening person? Your boy, L.A. Knight.
Yeah.
I think Drew is going to stack the deck and L.A. Knight is going to win. And then L.A. Knight is going to take Drew at Mania for the championship. It's bold. It's a hot take. But I think if Drew's really trying to stack the deck and trying to make what he thinks is going to be an easy match, I think that's who he thinks is going to be an easy match. I don't think he wants to go up against anybody else. It's going to be really interesting to see. And I hope my boy LA gets his time, and we'll see what happens there. On the women's side, I still think Raquel will win, whether, they won't have that match between her and Liv, but Judgment Day will have both matches in the main event in WrestleMania. And that's what we'll do there. All right. We always like to end our show with our botch and our pop of the week. For me, my botch of the week was having these musicians and these artists in the ring. We don't need it. We learned our lesson last year. It ruined an amazing show, having that storyline and having that be a part of it. So don't need it. It ends up being problematic 20 years later anyway. Look at recent events. We don't need celebrities in the ring. We don't need musicians in the ring. Just stop it. And my pop of the week was Punk on the mic and AJ getting into the Hall of Fame. I think seeing AJ's face was the genuineness, the authenticity of his emotions was one of the best things that happened in the night. So that's going to do it for our show tonight. Again, if you don't like what we said, great, let us know. If you like what we said, let us know. We're always trying to, we're just here giving our takes and giving our opinions, right? Everyone has opinions. You know what they say about opinions. So let us know yours, and we'll talk to you guys next week. We'll see y'all later.